to show how Bento Buddy's simulator works. These have already been simulated with a rigid body. They pour out of the box there. In another video I might show how that was done. But the point here is to show how to take one of these things into Second Life. So I'm going to select all my objects that I want to put into Second Life, which is all these objects in the box. Go into my simulator and choose action, which will deposit bones onto all of my selected objects. These bones then are carried by the object, by the objects that are simulated, and then I can bake that into the rig, into the bones, which I will do right now. Bake sim. This takes a moment. And once that's done, all of the simulator properties are removed from the object, but they are stored so that you can reset it and get it back so it's non-destructive. Now if I'm playing this, it will look exactly the same, but now the objects are influenced by the bones instead of the bones being influenced by the objects. So now we have a real animation. We can bring it to Second Life. Now I'm going to export both the mesh associated with this and the animation. So let's do the animation first. There's no maps. We need maps, so let's see how many we need. I'm going to click first the safe bones, and it says 51 bones have been mapped out of the 129 objects that we have. Let's use the volume bones and see if we get any better. 77, and now we have 124 of 129. Well, we can't have that. We're going to have to remove some of these objects unless we parent them together. So what I'm going to do is reset my simulation, and then I'm going to delete some of the objects that I don't like. Some that are acting up, like they bounce too high. Maybe that's coal, I don't know. But I'm gonna choose, let's see, we had like 124, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I can delete like 5 of these, 6 of these objects. And let's go back to action. It'll deposit the bones. Then I can check it right there. I don't have to bake it yet. I'll just do, and let's remove the maps and do this over. 1, 2, and 3. So I was able to fill it all up. Now I can bake it, and then I'll export my animation and then the objects. All of these bones are end bones. That's why it works this way, and that's why it's limited to 122 instead of 200 and something bones. Let's see what we get here. Alright, this goofed up because I had my timeline in the wrong spot when I started the animation. That's unfortunate. So I'm going to reset again. What I want to do, make sure that the entire simulation plays through to the point that I actually want it to. I just let it play all the way through. If I have to shrink the keys, I can do that afterwards. Anyway, make sure the simulation plays all the way through before you hit action. And I'm going to play it again. I forget how I programmed this in, but I know that the simulation is still active until I bake it. So I'll play it one more time. I honestly don't remember. This is such a complicated tool, I forget. I just did some repair work today with it and added these export mesh options, join objects on export, which is non-destructive. So now I'm going to bake the sim. I'll play it again after that just to make sure that I'm bouncing around like they did before. Alright, so now the objects ought to be influenced by the bones instead, and the simulation has been removed from the objects. But like I said, it's stored in case you want to reset. Now since I have the rig selected, I'll just export my animation since I have the rig already chosen. It creates a bone snap rig temporarily to do the job, then it removes it. And now I just select the rest of my objects. So, and then I do export the mesh. And it will combine a number of these, like it'll combine 109 of them and then the remainder, whatever you set there, and it makes it easier to upload. But you'll notice that none of these are actually combined. So let's go see what we got in Second Life. Alright, so let me create my anchor first, and I'll throw in my script, which comes with Bento Buddy. I'll upload my animation and toss that into the anchor. It's too large. Alright, let's go fix that. So I'm going to show the output the output of this here, so you can see how to check. It used to pop up a dialogue, but I think there's something goofy happening in the newer version of Blender. The dialogues are popping away before you can read them. Anyway, I export the mesh second, so let's go back to the animation by selecting the rig first, and I want to go into pose mode and hit A to select all the bones so I get all the keys. I'm just going to bring this down since I have my cursor on frame 1. It will scale to frame 1, so I'll just scale like 1, bring it down to 150. It'll speed up the animation, so I can fix that by going into the animation exporter and reducing the frames per second. See what that does. And then I'll check here to make sure that my animation, oops, I don't want that. Make sure my animation isn't too big. It'll be like the last message, or one of the last messages. So it's 213,937, so that's good because we get to have 250k. Let's go back to Second Life. Alright, now it should work. I'll toss it into this anchor and then I'll upload my mesh. Now I'm using an older Firestorm, and no matter what I do, it's indicating that there's an error when there clearly is no error. And the physics, oh, it's not doing it now. Well, that's a surprise. It's great. That's what happens when you say, hey, this is going to happen. You can ignore this here. Let me make sure I reduced all my stuff. Yeah, I'm just testing, so I don't have to do anything special there. So I'll just drop that on there. And I'll raise it up here. Shift click my anchor so that becomes the root and say link. And you see that's yellow and that's blue, so that indicates it's a link. And I want to turn on my animation, my animesh thing, and I think I'll bring it up a little bit. So when they fall, okay, it spills out the box. Nice, huh? Now you just put that down onto the floor. It makes it look a little more real, huh? And I can edit linked and select my box here and make that invisible, so you don't have to see it at all. And when you export from the quick menu, it always enables loop. If you don't want loop, and you may not want loop, you might want to have control over it. Do the proper export with the bone map snap thing. I'll show you where that is real quick before I end this video. Let's go to that. So if you're happy with your animation, and I enable loop just so that I can get an idea of what's going on, Go over to your character tools, bone control, send to animation. You want the frame range to be sent to the animation tool, so that's why I enable that. And snap bones. And you see the familiar rig that it had up there temporarily. It uses the same tool. Go to animation, export features, and I will just make sure. Oh, it already did acquire, so I can just make sure everything is set properly here. I think I'm all right. And export. And I can turn off loop here, and that's the whole purpose of coming here anyway, just to turn the loop off. So you'd want to do that, turn the loop off, and then export your animation. Then you can control the loop using script in world and mix animations and stuff like that. Now, when you're done, just delete this rig, and you can go back to your simulator and test some more things out.